We've only got about a quarter of a tank to fill, so our pain at the pump won't be nearly as bad as folks who hold off as long as they can. It's certainly devastating to look at, and it's a lot to wrap your heads around. Right now we're in an Orla Vista neighborhood, and it's just covered with water. We're at the scene of a pretty large crime scene here. We're right next to two evidence markers, but just to give you an idea of how large of a scene we're talking, the bulk of the evidence markers that at least we can see are off to the side a little bit further. Our weather experts, of course, will keep a close eye on Tropical Storm Ian as it moves near Cuba today. So now's the time to get prepared, not scared. Today, the College Park and Rowing community is mourning the loss of a middle school student whose body was found after an extensive search on Lake Fairview. All you got to do is take a look around here to really see the impact here. A lot of these shelves that were once filled with food, now they're just going empty.
It could be a body double for Wonder Woman. I mean, instead of a lasso, you've got a microphone there on your outfit.
Good morning. I've got these guns too.
Yeah.
They aren't that big though. They're not as big as the economic impact we're going to be seeing here. Jerry, I want to introduce you to Capucine Carson. She was a mother trying to make a better life for herself and for her kids, but that life was taken from her.
She was a beautiful spirit, a beautiful person, and she impacted a lot of lives.
Capucine Carson was a daughter, a sister, a mother.
Her heart was pure, and she just wanted to belong.
But underneath it all, a struggle. Family members say her husband had a history of abuse.
I didn't know. I just had no idea.
That violence hidden from others, like her cousin, Sophronia Smith, and the abuse ultimately cost her her life last month. Orange County Sheriff's deputies say Capucine's husband shot her repeatedly, killing her. He's also accused of shooting her 3-year-old daughter, Kimbella. She's now out of the hospital recovering.
I just could not believe when I got the call. I said, quit lying to me.
Numbers from FDLE show last year there were nearly 200 domestic violence murders in Florida and nearly 107,000 domestic violence cases overall. Sophronia hopes people living through this trauma seek help to get out.
It's not that easy to get out. If you have a free way to get out, go. Run and don't look back. But if you don't have a free way to go, then you need to seek some kind of help in secret before something like this happens.
Harbor House of Central Florida offers help for people experiencing abuse. They have a 24/7 emergency hotline. That number is 407-886-2856, and you can also text that number to reach an advocate. Reporting live in the studio, Rebecca Turco, Spectrum News 13. They're concerned it's going to deter people from going solar with one less economic incentive. Now, many who have wanted to go solar are rushing to do it now to try and get grandfathered in.
It's a hands-on process, installing solar panels.
Down, down, down.
Things can get pretty loud. But inside, Rachel Beveridge welcomes the clanging, even working from home.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
That's because Rachel is excited to have a house that'll run on clean energy. She and her husband had been considering solar for a while. This new pool was a pushing point. They wanted a way to heat it year-round without breaking the bank.
Then it turned into, well, the math backed up why we should continue on, and so now we're doing the whole house in solar.
She says the timing couldn't be better. That's because state legislators recently passed a bill allowing utility companies to offer rooftop solar users less money for energy. Right now, those users get the full retail rate for any excess energy they send back to the grid. That means they can bank that energy as credits to use later, the chance to net zero their bills year-round. But if this measure becomes law, the payback rate would gradually decline. Solar contractor Brad Lowndes says hitting net zero would be a no-go.
It's a typical example of the power companies honestly saying, do as I say, not as I do. because they can build power plants, but we can't benefit from the free energy that we pull out of the grid.
Supporters argue this ensures those who can't afford solar aren't subsidizing those who have it. If the governor signs off, solar users can get grandfathered in for another 20 years if their panels are up and running before 2024. That's when the payback rate would start to decline. Rachel's just glad she got it now.
We've been able to capitalize when it's, the most perks.
Florida Power and Light is a major supporter of this bill. The utility company sent us a statement saying net metering rules should be modernized to make solar energy more equitable for all Floridians. Adding, quote, this legislation would take an important step toward balancing the costs of solar expansion here in the state. Good Sunday morning. I'm Rebecca Turco in for Curtis McLeod. Time now for your top stories and weather in 90 seconds. A mandatory campus evacuation is set to go into effect tomorrow for students and staff at Bethune-Cookman University. Here's a live look from the university, which made the announcement ahead of potential impacts from Ian. Students are encouraged to leave campus as soon as today. President Joe Biden will not come to Orlando this week after all. The White House confirmed he's postponing the trip due to Tropical Storm Ian. The president was scheduled to attend a Democratic National Committee event in Orlando on Tuesday. And SpaceX successfully launched a new batch of satellites into orbit from the Space Coast last night. SpaceX is now on track to hit as many as 60 launches by the end of the year. Now let's get a check of your weather with certified meteorologist Amy Sweezy. And Amy, lots to talk about with Ian this morning.
Yes, it is still a tropical storm.
Our weather experts, of course, will keep a close eye on Tropical Storm Ian as it moves near Cuba today. So now's the time to get prepared, not scared. In the last 30 minutes, we've learned Governor Ron DeSantis will provide an update from the State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee. That's expected at 11:30 this morning. We'll bring that to you live. Just yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis expanded his state of emergency order to include the entire state. Late last night, President Joe Biden approved an emergency declaration for Florida, which makes federal emergency aid available to the state. Here in Central Florida, cities and counties are offering sandbags as one way to help you get your home ready in case of heavy rains. And the storm that caused damage in Puerto Rico has now also left its mark on parts of Canada. Fiona knocked out power to many on Canada's Atlantic coast. Officials are calling this a landmark weather event. The storm destroyed homes along the coast of Newfoundland and flooded streets in Prince Edward's Island. Officials are urging people to remain inside.
There are too many people on our streets traveling around, taking pictures and just out trying to see what's going on. We have telephone poles that are falling in around the community, that are falling down. There are live wires on some of these poles. We do not need people out just cruising around the streets. We need you to stay home.
So far, no word on any injuries or deaths in Canada, but Fiona is blamed for killing at least 5 people in the Caribbean last week. Hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans remain without power about a week after Fiona's first impacts. Government leaders and first responders say they are working to restore outages all throughout the island. Spectrum News reporter Juli Cesar Garcia reports from San Juan, where frustration continues to rise.
Indeed, the frustration.
Next, we've seen shortages in school staff right here in Central Florida. Teachers and school employees nationwide are also struggling to keep up with the cost of living. Inflation and surging rent prices are pushing out teachers who can't afford to live in the areas where they work.
It's sad to live the way we are because of inflation. And everything is going up except your paycheck. Your paycheck is not going up. So it's like, oh, Lord, how am I going to continue to survive?
Many educators blame the rising cost of living for forcing them to leave the profession overall. As we've seen, that's heavily impacting the push to fill the gap of teacher shortages across the nation. Daycare costs are going up, presenting challenges for families nationwide. Spectrum News 13's Erin Cotel Altman explains how those rising costs are impacting working families.
Whoosh, I got you.
Point guard Cole Anthony is making waves on and off the basketball court.
The kid just meeting an NBA player, whoever. Well, like, it didn't matter what type of NBA player it was. I'm like, yo, this dude's like, he's where I want to be when I grow up. Like, it's the coolest thing in the world.
Howie's giving the next generation of athletes a chance to show off their skills and build their confidence. But first, let's check in with certified meteorologist Amy Sweezy again. Amy, how's it looking on this Sunday?